What are we doing in the black community? The number one consumer of a Mercedes-Benz is us. The number one consumer of a Gucci and a Louis Vuitton, us. And they don't even advertise. Why is it that in the black community, we are always the number one consumer, but we're not the number one creators?
So you just said it, the fact that there's consumers and creators. For so long, we assume success based on consumption.
Welcome to Closing Gap Podcast, The Truth About Wealth. I am your co-host, Mr. Eddie Richardson, here with our host and the owner of Hamilton Wealth Advisors, Mr. Wilbert Hamilton, and also our special guest today, Mr. Mike McCoy. Wilbert, first of all, how you doing?
Hey, I'm always blessed and highly favored.
All right, Mike, how you feeling, brother?
Hey, I woke up in my right mind. I'm good.
Amen to that. So you are tuned in to another Righteous and Holy episode. And today we're going to talk about passion and endurance. We got Mike here, right? And so you all know us, you hear us, we talk to you all the time. But as we are moving toward the close of 2025 year, we feel it pertinent to talk to somebody that is committed to the work that they do. And so we're going to let Mr. Mike McCoy introduce himself, tell you a little bit about himself and who he is and what he does.
Oh, man, you put me on the spot. My name is Mike McCoy. I'm owner of Maximum Performance Institute located in Bessemer. I'm a country boy. I'm originally from Rankin County, a small town called Fannin, Mississippi. Played football at the University of Alabama, was a 3-time starter, national champion. I'm married. I have 2 wonderful, beautiful children. I've been in the sports strength and conditioning industry for the last 14 years. I've helped, been a part of over 700 kids going off to college. So I have been around sports for a number of years. I love what I do. I can honestly say I got the best job on the earth.
Amen. That's great. So, Will, how did you get into a relationship with Mike?
Man, it's been definitely an unexpected blessing. It's one of those things where they always say there's 7 degrees of separation. You never know, kind of who you're going to come into contact with on your journey. And, I was blessed to come into contact with him actually through my son's coach. And we were looking for someone to train and work out and whatnot. And of course, I've, been around the Birmingham area for a while and, but I had not heard of Maximum Performance and didn't know, Coach McCoy. But, after kind of doing some research and of course, all the recommendations and everything I heard was, he's your type of guy, Hamp. I said, he's your type of guy. I said, my type of guy. I said, well, let's go and check it out. So, thankfully, my son went to him. And, man, you know what? The one thing I love about him is that he's a straight shooter. Everybody that knows me knows I'm a straight shooter. I don't believe in beating around the bush. I like to call it like I see it. Mm-hmm. And I definitely, wanted my son to have that type of coaching, that type of training, but not just the attitude, the professionalism, but also the results and the work that came with it. A lot of times, people get after kids and you might, go hard on them and, but there was the constructive criticism that was the actual specialization of what is being done in the gym that went along with the motivation. So it's one thing to just kind of, push and motivate. It's another thing to actually be able to show a kid what to do so they can implement it and work them the right way so they can have the results. And, I can, just in the short time that, my son has been there, I've seen his confidence grow. Yeah. I've seen his body begin to develop and change. Okay. And I've seen the performance improve. I can honestly say that. Maximum performance. I've seen some maximum performance. And, we still trying to push it to another level. But the greatest thing about it is that, knowing that, I have an advocate, outside of the home. I have someone that I can, turn my son over to and not worry about what he's getting. Mm-hmm. I know he's getting the best of the best, not just from a training perspective, but also from a motivational perspective. It's one thing to have the knowledge to be able to train someone, but it's another thing to actually be able to apply it, implement it, and deliver it to a kid where they actually can accept it. Yeah. And that's a skill set and the gift that I feel like I have in my world. Mm-hmm. So as a financial advisor, I think one of my gifts is that I can take a complex subject and make it real simple and understandable. So now any person I come into contact with, I can explain it and how they can implement it in their lives and be successful financially. Yeah. that's a skill set that I look for in people. And I saw that was something that he definitely had and that was translatable. And I think that's why he's had a success. I mean, I know several kids that he's trained that have gone on to the next level and have futures that go beyond even college, football. So, for me, it's definitely been a blessing. I'm definitely seeing, look forward to continue working with my oldest son, but also I got 2 others coming down the pipeline that I'm going to be getting them over there real soon. We're going to get them started early because, one thing you know about me is we don't shy away from no work.
That's right. That's good. That's good, man. And that simplification of the work, it sounds like what you've seen in your experience with Mike is a passion. Yes. That's why we've come to everybody today is talking about passion and endurance, and being able to simplify things. So Mike, if you could, what is the passion? What drives? What makes you so passionate about what you do? How did you get to this point to have this type of drive?
I got in this industry to become the coach that I needed. A lot of kids have the talent, but just need that one coach, that one opportunity, that one person to be like, hey man, you got it.
Yeah.
It's that belief system just to really show a kid like, hey bro, you stick with this, you're gonna be all right. And most kids don't know until they know. Minister Louis Farrakhan has a statement. He says, you have to connect before you correct. So I try to meet these kids on ground level, meet them where they are, and build a relationship with them. Because you got kids coming from all walks of life. So, and a lot of those kids could have grown up the way I grown up. And you learn grace, you learn patience, you learn resilience. And you fall in love with these kids, man. They become yours. So their hurts become yours. So there's a song out there. It's an artist. He says, I'm a prisoner to my mission. So I'm operating my purpose. So I that's all I can do.
That's good. That's good. No, that is relevant to everything that Wilbur and I talk about on this podcast, right? Because you have to have a passion, a drive, and the people that Wilbur works with, when we talk in the podcast, off the podcast, he tells me stories about, hey, I got this person and I'm working with them and we doing this. And I really like how they came to me and they listening. And so I'm the same way as well, that in the barbershop, have relationships with the people, and then in the church, and hearing people and working with them, praying for them. And you'd like to see them be successful. You want to see them reach their maximum potential, right? You want to see them, for me, it's being able to see a person become who God desires them to be.
That's right.
And that's what it sounds like as well, that you are doing and striving to be the coach that you desire. So as you are passionate about being that coach, tell us a little bit about your background in sports and how you ended up getting to the University of Alabama.
Oh man. Like I said, chocolate as I am, I grew up sandy red hair. I'm from, again, Mississippi. You see the red table, this is where we grew up around, the red clay. You're gonna probably hear me use a lot of country slang. My dad and my grandparents talked in proverbs and what they say, you eat it from the pig, from the rooted to the tooted. Yeah. So that's where I grew up, man. I grew up kind of like a family compound. This was my house. Right next to me was my uncle. Right next to my other uncle. To my aunt was on the left, across the street. Great uncle, quarter mile down the street with my grandparents. So we grew up hogs. That again, I'm late 30s, but we still had a smokehouse where they used to put the salt with a pork at. You know what I'm saying? So I got a chance to. I had a wonderful childhood. Up until when my mom and dad split. When they split, my mom got diagnosed with cancer. It's supposed to be terminal cancer. I made a promise to my mom. This is kind of how I got up in the sports. I said, if you beat this, mama, you're going to be able to watch me on TV. I'm going to get a free education. And that was kind of my transition. And then football exposed me to where I am now. So Basketball was my first sport. I was always the fastest kid in school, but I vaguely remember the first time that I ever played football. It was a white coach. She came to my mom and said, "Hey, can Mike play?" She said, "If y'all pay for it." So the first time I touched the ball, it was the end of the game. It was the fourth quarter. Knew nothing about it. Michael Wright, pitch right. Took that thing 80 yards on the sideline, man, and that's all she wrote. And football it came natural. It was easy. I fell in love with it. But I took what I knew on the basketball court, applied it to the football field, man, and I mean, you ain't doing nothing. I can play basketball without traveling. One-on-one down the field, throw that thing up, and let's make magic happen. So when I came out, I was number 16 in the country as far as receivers were concerned. Had all the offers in the SEC, but Alabama was something it felt like home. Okay. Far as the coaches, the teams, the teammates, and I went down there and I met my wife and I became a national champion. I've been operating in my business ever since.
Dang, that's a blessing. That's a blessing. You know, one thing I heard, just kind of in the conversation is something that I always go back to and something I'm grateful for. Something I heard my father say when I was growing up, him being a coach. And he always said, kind of like, in the parallels, kind of the statement that you made that, kids don't want to know how much you know till they find out how much you care. And the fact that, you care, a lot of times it overrules maybe you even not being or knowing certain things. Because I always tell coaches, I said, look, if you show a kid that you care, you don't have to necessarily drop the best play in the world. But if that kid knows you care, he'll run through a brick wall. Yes. You can do pitch right, pitch left, and dive right, and reverse, and them all the plays you need offensively. But if those kids believe in you and they willing to run through a brick wall for you and block it the way they need to on each and every play, I don't care what defense you going against.
Yeah.
That mentality would take you further than having the most exotic package in the world, but you can't motivate a kid to take action and give you their best effort. So, I can relate in a certain way because I've always desired a coach who could push me and push my buttons that I knew cared about me. And I feel like that's one thing that I never really had that I always wished I had.
Yes.
That coach that say, what, I believe in you. Not just, what you can do for me, but I believe in you and you being the best and you can go as far as you want to go because I see that in you. And I think a lot of kids, need that. So I'm thankful, that you've taken that role of, and what I say is, being the change that you want to see. That's something that, we try to live out. And now I try to, live it out in my life and being the change that I want to see. And I'm thankful for you even more ways than one because, sometimes I think even with our own kids, we can get so caught up, and I'm one. I come from that tough love background where, hey, I'm gonna let you know what you're doing. I'm gonna let you know what you're not doing. And I tell my father to this day, the greatest thing he ever gave me was the truth. And I always made a promise that I was going to give my sons the truth, regardless of how it sounded, regardless of how it made me feel, because at the end of the day, the truth is the truth, and we can always stand on it. And I saw too many kids walking around being fed a lie and never getting the truth, and it hurt them more than it helped them. So I'm thankful that I can give the truth. Yeah. And now someone else can provide, the truth, but in a different way where he can connect because, as a father, sometimes, we're trying to drive a point home. And I think we can forget sometimes, to be maybe as compassionate as maybe we need to be or as understanding as we need to be at times, because I'm not always the most understanding person. I have a way that I think that things should be done sometimes. And, and if you're not doing it, I'm going to stay on you until you do it. It's just the old school ways that we come from a lot of times. But I think, seeing someone who has a passion for what they do and actually cares, I think it goes a long way. And I think, that's why you are successful. So I always tell people and entrepreneurs, if you ain't at where you want to be just yet, just hold on because you're destined to get there. Because anytime you're passionate about what you do, God is going to bring, all your dreams into fruition. There's a quote in the Bible that I've become very accustomed to that I say a lot now based upon the trials and things that I've gone through in my life. And I learned it, I would say back in 2023, I was having a very trying year. A lot of things going on. And he said, if you remain in me and my word remains in you, whatever you wish for, it shall be done. And since that moment in time, I've always made it a point to make sure that I'm, telling God exactly what I want. But I got to do my part, because he said the first part of that sentence is, he who remains in me and the word that remains in him, whatever he shall wish for, it shall be done. So he's saying, basically, look, I've already done it. I'm already making that whatever dreams you got, I've already brought them to fruition. You just got to walk this thing out. So as long as you walking it out and you walking in your purpose, that says that God has already, touched you. He's already anointed you in that way, because see, most people have the biggest issue just finding that purpose, just finding that passion. So in it right now, the times that we live in today where, people losing SNAP benefits and people getting furloughed and, people losing jobs, it's a lot of troubling things going on. And when you step out into entrepreneurship, it's even tougher, and if people don't understand, they see the glitz and the glam and everything that come with it, but they don't understand what you actually have to go through to persevere. But when God has touched you and told you what to do, it gives you peace that surpasses all understanding. So when things are not going the way you want them to go, when things are not moving as fast as you would like them to move, because nothing moves as fast as we want it to move. We all want the success right now. We all want the clients in the building and everything that comes with it on our time. But God's timing is always perfect, because he's perfecting us so that when he provides us what he wants us to have, we know how to handle it and utilize it to the best of our abilities and then some, because what he has for us, we can't even comprehend.
I need to come here every Monday. I'm in church.
Hey, well, it's great. Well, we've been blessed. We've been blessed as, I operate as the minister of money. And of course, we got the minister of faith over there. And, we just been blessed to, have a voice, and we just try to do what God has called us to do. And, I'm one of the people that I know God has been wonderful to me. He's blessed me in so many different ways, but also he's given me insight in different ways and understanding to things where I can be a blessing to others. And I think that's the biggest thing that we can all do, is as we acquire and gain knowledge, to pass that on, to try and be a blessing to someone else. Me being in entrepreneurship, being a business owner now for almost 20 years now, there's a lot of lessons that I've learned, along the way. And I didn't necessarily see them as lessons as I was moving through life. They were just things I was just going through. But now I can look back and I know that they're lessons, because now I can see other people that are coming up and them going through the same thing. So now I'm able to pass along, some of that wisdom that I've been able to gain, but also able to find the right people around me that I can still pull from and learn from. So I'm real big on making sure you plugged in to the right sources. So first and foremost, you got to be plugged into God first and foremost. If you ain't plugged into him, you can never recharge that battery. You got to be plugged into him in some way, shape, form, or fashion. I'm a real big person on plugging into the right people who can consistently bring more of that God to you. So I'm plugged into Eddie because he brings God to me. He brings a word to me. I have, Bishop Ken Carter, who's, he pours into me in ways that, even he doesn't even understand. So I've surrounded myself with the people that can, reinvigorate, that can recharge, that can, hold me accountable in ways that I don't even think that they know sometimes. So that's something a lot of times I think we need, and that's entrepreneurs, as business owners, as leaders and whatnot, because, you're a leader of men. You're shaping, young men in a mighty way, and they look up to you in ways that they won't even look up to their fathers because of the impact that you have, because you can press a button because of your gift. So if you can pull out of a kid what his parents are not able to, that's special, because, that's something that we all need. And those are things that I can see that I was able to benefit from growing up. My father being a coach, it got to a point where sometimes those words that he was telling me was falling on deaf ears. Because I got tired of him going off on me every day. That was just another day. It's just Tuesday. It's just Wednesday. That's just another day him going off on me saying what I'm not doing. But he also had people around him that would step in that I can remember saying, hey, what you doing good? You're going to be all right. There was people stepping in and saying, you know what? Hey, no, you're going to come work out with me. I got you. We're going to get you there. So I can think back to those people that were impactful that saw something in me that even I didn't see in myself. And we'll come back after this break. We're going to see what God has got more in store for us and what he's going to bring out of us to give to you.
Yeah, so that's something that I'm passionate about.
Man, you need my opinion. I sure got
Yeah.
plenty of them. I sure tell you. I sure tell you.
Well, I think, I think that's what's missing. I think a lot of times is we got to take some of what used to happen, what we used to do, but then we got to apply it. Because one thing I can't say, my mom, she had us in church. They were a lot more committed than I feel like we are to the church, and to, being present. I can tell, I know my mom was way more committed, than me and my family are right now to the building of the church. I ain't trying to throw a wife on it. So, but that just is what it is. When you don't, life has gotten in the way of a lot of things that we do now. And the structure that we used to have, the togetherness that we used to have, I think that's kind of, gone by the wayside to a certain extent. And everything a lot of stuff has become a show. I think that's what's turned a lot of us off from the church. Like I can say, I know, like my wife, for example, she's easily turned off by things that she sees when, she sees the certain church organizations and it becomes more of a fashion show. It becomes more of a competition between wives and what you're wearing and what you got on and that kind of stuff. Like she's so against that. Like she's so just easy going and laid back. She's like, if we're doing this, I'm more about the development of the kids. I'm more about the church. I'm more about, these things. And that was a big turnoff for even with certain organizations that we have. We've been involved in, I grew up in Jack and Jill. I've, been involved in a lot of different organizations. I was a member of fraternity. My wife is a member of, of course, AKA. So, we've been around in just the organizations overall. I think a lot of them have changed as far as, what they do. Obviously, the foundational principles are still the same. I just don't think we execute them the same way. I think, but that can go back to what you said, is us being more present and us being accountable. Because I definitely can, hold myself accountable. I have not been as accountable as I need to be in that space. I can definitely say that I haven't been. That is an area where I've fallen short. In my opinion, well, my opinion, it is what it is. It's called a spade a spade. I've fallen short in that area from a church standpoint. And I've used, and I feel like at times I've used what I like or dislike as an excuse. As to why I didn't attend or didn't like certain things. Like I had a motto. I would say, if I ain't growing, I'm going. Like when I moved back home after I finished college and I was going to, my church I grew up in, and I told my parents, man, I'm not getting what I need no more. Like I'm not getting fed here. I got to go somewhere else. And, I started driving 45 minutes to go to Pastor Carter's church, and I'm driving from Montgomery to Opelika just to go to church every Sunday to get what I need, but I think it's somewhere along the line, that same energy and passion I have for myself, I feel like I've dropped the ball when it comes to my family because of just life. Obviously it's not on purpose, but it's just life and going here, going there, having 3 sons running around all the time. And, just like, man, I just want to sleep in one day, got to get up on Saturday morning,
That's
have workouts and practice. So, that's one of those things that, I think, I can be better at. I can set a better example in. But also I think, our churches can help. I'm one of those people that's easily turned off by certain things. I'm very, Eddie knows this. I'm very cognizant of who I take my message from. If you ain't living it, I can't take it from you. I just can't. That's just me. I just, to each his own. But if you ain't walking it, like you talk it, I just can't follow behind you. And there's certain things that, in today's day and time that obviously the church has got involved in. that the church has always been involved in. But I just think that the leadership in times has been so wishy-washy for me now. Because obviously politics is super involved in, it's everywhere now, from a political standpoint. And our pastors have gotten even more involved in politics, where they was always involved in politics in the past. This is where, Dr. King and all these people, Andrea, all these people have been super involved, always in politics from a leadership perspective. They were in the ministry, but they weren't acquiescing, in my opinion, to go along to get along. I can't do the go along to get along game. I see a lot of pastors, acquiescing for, certain resources. And my thing is, it's okay with having conversations with people on either side. It's okay if you, want to have a understanding. But when you are doing things and I can see it solely for personal gain or benefit, or it's purely financially motivated, that's when I have an issue and you don't stand on it. For me, I've seen pastors, go to the White House. I've seen pastors make statements, supporting an administration that is, said negative things about us. And I'm like, I can't in no way, shape, form, or fashion. And I'm a man first. You can't disrespect me and my family and then turn around and think you're going to get my support. It's just not going to happen. I can't, the double talking is what I don't, like. I've seen a lot of them try to backtrack once they get certain backlash, and they've gone and they've done certain things and went and had conversations, and they've said it was for the benefit. I was just trying to see what they can do for the church and for the organization. And then they, get some backlash, and all of a sudden, they say, well, if I'd have knew that, we would have reacted this way, well, maybe I wouldn't have went. But I'm like, but you use God to justify your going. But once you didn't get the reception that you wanted, and you didn't get the benefits that you like, all of a sudden you're saying that you wouldn't have gone if your congregation gonna react this way. I'm like, well, if God told you to go, you go, regardless of the backlash.
With the conversation.
Exactly, regardless of the conversation. The backlash is the backlash.
And you continue to go and do what's necessary, because if God is in it, then that's what defines your passion.
Absolutely.
That's what defines your drive and why it provides your why. Right? Why are you doing what you're doing? How are you doing it? And so that's why we're here today talking about passion, endurance, perseverance, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Passion and perseverance and endurance in doing the things that we need to do, and having that commitment to God, is key. So with what Will said, Mike, how does God fit into your passion and what you do?
This might be very controversial.
Go ahead.
But Minister Louis Farrakhan says, study from the cradle to the grave. So I study every facet. And again, I try to meet people where they are. You know what I'm saying? I cling to the kids that need or have a chip on their shoulder. Don't give me the superstars. Give me the damaged goods. Mm-hmm. The kid that is on the cusp, or the kid who the coach can get through, who the coach can talk to, or the kid that's getting overlooked and undervalued. Give me all of them, because they need a voice too. And I'm not one of these people like, well, God told me this. Well, I feel like I'm moved. I have a discerning spirit. I feel like I can read people. And again, man, you just put your arm around some of these kids, man. I got a call Friday from one of my kids. He's in college. His dad is terminally ill. Just stayed on the phone. He just cried. Mm-hmm. I'm just holding the phone. And and we know, we don't go through life trials and tribulations for ourselves. We go through them from somebody else. So again, I've lost both of my parents. My mom 3 years ago. I know we don't pick our parents. Mm-hmm. I pick that lady every time. Mm-hmm. Man, best woman in the man. It ain't a day that I don't miss her, don't think about her. But me going through that, and my brothers going through it, and us talking through it, man, you get a chance to help so many other kids, time heals all. But at the moment when you lose somebody, man, you're angry, you're mad at God, you don't want to talk, it changes you as a person. But again, God gonna come back and he gonna knock. You know, he never forsake you. I never leave you. And just knowing that these kids have that comfort, that's where I show up at, man. So I don't do it in the very much the traditional way. I cuss like a sailor, but I don't ever belittle or demean any of these kids. And it's just that I'm that uncle who gives it straight to them with no chaser. Boy, that girl ain't no good, boy. Hey, you know, hey, I'm telling you now, you know, or, hey, man, your homeboy ain't really your friend, bro. You know, they ain't really clapping for you. Pay attention, keep your grass cut so you can see all the snakes. You know, little gems here and there. And you got to let these kids know it's their ideas. Make it seem like it's their idea. Oh, I came up with it. Hey, Coach Mike, because even his son, Gold, we talk about all the time. I said, so if your dad leaves you a multi-million-dollar business, do you think he wants you to run it into the ground or double or triple what it has at? So do you think he's going to give you any bad advice? No, sir. So why don't you listen? That's common sense. You don't hang out with me. You don't drink beer with Coach Mike. You only know me because of what you've read about me. But, you know, it's just like anything else. I got to tell these kids, your parents are the only ones who want to see you do better than anybody else on the face of this earth. Why would they want you to? And, well, coach this and coach that. My coach is. Well, before your parents talk to your coach, tell your parents to go to practice. That's going to tell me whether you playing or not. You know, I don't know any coach that just wants to go out there and lose on purpose. Now, you have a few, you have a certain occasions, but for the most, I don't know anybody who wants to wake up and lose.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good, man. That's helping the kids find their passion and realize who's really behind you.
Yes.
Who's really supporting you. Okay, you got God, you got and then God has blessed your parents to have you and bless you to have your parents. Like you said, hey, you know, rest in peace to your mother, but you weren't able to choose her. But if you could, you'll pick her every time. You know what I'm saying? Because you understand as you get older the valuable lessons that you learned through the experience with her, the love that was shared, the care that was there has helped you become who you are. Right. And as you said earlier about, you know, when she was diagnosed with cancer and you said, you know what? Hey, you're going to see me play football on television.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? So that sounds like part of the defining passion for you that, okay, much like Will, a guy that mainly played basketball, but then, you know what I'm saying, football drove you into the college career.
Yeah.
Right. And then having that driving force of what's going on, the challenge with your mother, you know, and what she was fighting, and you going and utilizing that, you know, as the fuel to push you to be successful. So now, what's driving you now, Mike? What's the driving force? I hear the kids, but what's internally with Mike that's driving Mike? And the reason I ask this, Mike, is because our listeners as well need to have an understanding that, yes, we can utilize other people for motivation, right? And we definitely need to be rooted and grounded in our faith in God. That's why we come in this podcast as well in doing what we do. But then also, there has to be a certain amount of selfishness with us too, right? Because we are people. We have needs and we have things that we like to see, not only see the success of the kids, but what is the success for Mike?
I'm going to make a lot of money. It's just going to throw that out there. Mike going to have some money. So that's part of it. But Frederick Douglass has a quote, and it has stuck with me since the first time I ever heard it. knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave.
You know what? I think that's very key based on what's going on right now today. We got a lot of people that's struggling to survive. SNAP benefits just got cut off, getting furloughed, and we talk about all the time about, of course, how knowledge is power, seeking professional help, you know, asking God to reveal your passion and your purpose to you. Once you have your passion and purpose revealed to you, at that point in time, that unlocks what you just said, being unfit to be a slave. Because now you working for something that's greater than you.
That's
You
it.
see, when God give you a vision and give you a passion, and it creates something innately in you that you know it ain't just about you no more. This thing is bigger than you. And it's something that I'm even going to say to you that I've heard just sitting here listening. And I know you have the idea of who you want to help. But one thing I've learned about God is that what you want don't matter to him. He see who he wants you to help. Now, the kids that you put your arm around, you're going to continue to put your arm around it. But I can hear and I see him saying, he wants you to put your arm around some 5 stars too.
Wow.
Because see, that same thing that we give it to the others, they not getting it either. They getting fed a lot of lies. They getting coddled. They getting told what they want to hear, not what they need to hear too. Because the world has become a lot softer place. Because the world is not, what it used to be when we were growing up, where, it was the competitive spirit was so high all the time. When the 3-star was going to compete against the 5-star and show him why he deserved to be the 5-star. Now, that's not consistent all the time, because the love and passion for sports is not the same as what it used to be. More people are playing because of what the game can do for you, as opposed to the love of the game. Where we came up, the finances were not what they are now. So we played because we just loved it. I love to compete. My competitive spirit was who I defined myself as a man. Who I became was based on how I whooped your behind on this football field on Friday night. That's how people saw me when they walked in the mall on Saturday evening. That's what we got from it. Now the game has changed a little bit, and you still have those kids that love to compete that way. And that's what separates a lot of them from being special versus being average. But because of people like yourself and the training and the benefits that you're adding to so many other kids as well, you have more kids that are getting the opportunity to go to the next level. So we're all thankful for that. But that separator is something that has to be instilled in you. And I can hear and see that you have the ability, even if that ain't your goal. Because see, I'm in a similar situation, but just in a different field.
Yeah.
I've always said what I didn't want to do and what I wasn't trying to do, but I find myself in a position doing exactly what I said I wasn't trying to do.
Yeah.
But it's funny how God has kind of molding us and shaping us all the time and putting us in position so he can use us to our max capacity and ability. Because in order to make your voice go where he wants it to go, he got to put you with some of the best of the best. Yeah, you're going to put your arm around everybody. You're going to give everybody the best version of you, because that's who you are as a man. That's who you are as a coach. That's who you are as a trainer. You're going to always put your best foot forward, because that's how you design. But at the same time, in order for your message to grow, you have to be open to putting your arm around some of those others as well. And this is me talking to myself.
Yeah,
this is what I do a lot of times. This is what I do a lot of times. I have to I work through this. Our Monday morning worship says, we are, it's ironic how sometimes people are putting your life to reveal certain things to you. And when you can see something in somebody else that's similar to what you have, but also it's easy for us to identify what somebody else is not doing, but then being able to use that almost as a mere reflection of saying, okay, well, you're doing the same thing, just in a different way. You're running away. And I probably spent a lot of time in my life probably running away what God has called me to do. But I'm going to leave that alone for right now. And I'm not going to allow the minister of faith to jump in before we come right back at you in a minute.
Welcome back to Closing the Gap Podcast, the truth about, I am the co-host, Mr. Eddie Richardson, here with our host and owner of Hamilton Wealth Advisors, Mr. Wilbert Hamilton. Also joined by Coach McCoy, owner of Maximum Performance Institute. So we've been talking about passion, and talking about how God drives that passion and how, passionate in the church and the work that needs to be done in ministry. And then now we want to talk about perseverance, talk about endurance. All of us are business owners and entrepreneurs and doing this work. So, Coach, tell the people about how you got to where you are. Like you played football at Alabama, champion that you are, right? It sounds like it would be seamless to leave playing football to becoming a trainer, but it hadn't been a seamless transition.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I laugh every time I see a former athlete try to open a jail. I chuckle inside because they think just because you played it that you can coach it. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing about being a business owner. Nobody tells you it's on the job training. Mm-hmm. A book can only teach you so much. Yeah. A mentor can only teach you so much. But until you see that past due.
Said nothing else creates that kind of motivation, huh?
And you might be older than your bank account. You know what I'm saying? So from where everybody thinks it was a seamless, I can honestly tell you how I got into this field and how I got into this business was Coach Cochran. That's the everybody, yeah guy. Him and my mentor, Coach TJ. Coach TJ was a black strength coach at Alabama for over, honestly, 40 plus years. Wow. I called the Coach TJ last week. I still call and check in on him. Mm-hmm. He was just even when I write programs, I may send it to him and he like, boy, you know more than I do now. What you want me to look at it for? But that was a mentor. He left his footprint on me. But when I called Coach Cochran, I chased the pro route for a hot little minute. And that's it for another podcast. Hopefully they'll have me back.
We will.
Yes, sir. We can talk about the NFL journey and all of that. But I called Coach Cochran. It was a Monday. And he fast forwarded. I called him. I was like, Coach, I think I'm over this football bug, bro. I think I want to get into coaching. Mm-hmm. He was like, let me call you back. Now, this was in the middle of Alabama football season, so I was like, shit, forget you then, bro. And so I'm really think he playing on me like he ain't had no time for me. But he called me right back. He called me back about 5 minutes later. He said, when can you be at IMG? Prior to this, I've never heard of IMG. I didn't know anything about IMG. He sent me down there. This was a Monday. I said, well, when do I need to be down there? Friday. So I'm in Mississippi, end up going 13-hour drive, just me by myself, me and that y'all probably don't even remember what the GPS, that TomTom. You gave me all the directions all the way down there. But he told me, he said, if you don't mind being broke for about another 2 years, you're going to make a lot of money at this, Mike. I said, well, Coach, I can't get no broker than what I am. Mm-hmm. So went down there, man. I met my business partner. My old business partner. My first class, there's some guys you may still recognize that I had Muhammad Sanu, I had Luke Kuechly, I had Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson. All those guys were some of my guys. They were the first guys I had. It was probably the best experience I've had because it was on the job training. First day on the job, I had 200 Asian kids. None of them spoke English. They said, warm them up. Me and my homeboy, Matt Houston, who's the strength coach for the Miami Heat now, we was like, hey, bro, how we warm them up? I don't know. So we figured it out, man. It's been nothing but short. Started my business with my former business partner. We started in 2013. We started in his parents' car garage. So my first clients was my former teammates, Marcel Darius and Andre Smith. So those names speak volumes. So I had Courtney Upshaw, Alfred Morris that played for the Redskins. So we were training those guys before we even had a building. So it was a blessing, man. But been in my place now for about 12 years. It was called Warehouse Performance. We dissolved that business, and now I'm 100% owner, Maximum Performance. Now, so we're here now.
That's good. That's good, man. So in that journey, what would you say was one of the greatest challenges? I know there were a couple, right? I'm sure, because as a business owner myself, there are many, right? And you spoke to some of it a little bit by saying, hey, the past due. Also with, the age of your bank account, right? So I definitely understand the challenges. But while the people are going through hardships, and then you've gone through hardships, what are some hardships that you don't mind sharing now that you had to endure?
Oh, man, I understand, and this is not being cliche. I understand what the Bible means when it said, when you find a woman, you find a good thing. I was fortunate enough to say, man, and I don't believe in knocking on the wood, all that.
We just thank the Lord.
Thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
I remember vividly, this was like our second year in the business. I was making less than a teacher's salary. Now, remind you, while I was starting my business, I was a bail bonding and cutting grass, ultimate hustler. So I wasn't just, we'd get up at 5 a.m. We'll train 2 classes at 6 and 7, go cut grass from 8 to 2, work out at 3 o'clock by myself. We back open from 4 to 7. So I did that. So I was not too good to be like, I can't cut no grass. Yeah, I won a national championship. That means nothing when them bills are calling. But the biggest trial I had was, it was our second year in business. And we got a letter, my business partner, and we can talk later more in depth about that later. But we owed the IRS 20 grand. I'm like, time out, wait a minute. I'm like, well, okay, cool. When we got to pay? Friday. Wait a minute. Bro, you just told me this Tuesday. Like, it's Tuesday, bro. We can't file an extension, no nothing. So I had to go to my wife, pull $8,000. Now, I'm a newlywed at this time. Fresh, new car smell. I got to tell my wife, we got to pull $8,000 out of our savings, and I'm not going to be able to pay myself for the next 3 months. And the realest thing and the best thing my wife said to me, she said, we're going to figure it out. So that's why I say, man, get you somebody who believes in your dreams and your reality and understand what comes with it. So that was probably a surreal moment, but it was a blessing because, man, it's like, man, you really are ride or die. You are really my age, what they say, age boom cone. You know what I'm saying? R. Kelly, they were a homie, lover, friend. That's what I had. And that helped me out, man, more than anything, because I knew I had somebody that was in the den with me in a line of fire. So, I mean, for that, I was just forever grateful. That was just one thing. $8 grand, not paying yourselves for 3 months.
Well, they say he who finds a wife finds a good thing. Gains favor in God's eyes. So even though you were going through a storm in that moment, you know, what you learned going through that storm, and we talked about this on just last week in the previous episode, you know, the gift is not the destination. The gift is the journey. And what you learned going through that journey, what you learned about yourself, what you learned about your wife, what you learned about each other, and you being able to come to her, I promise you, even though it was embarrassing to you, I guarantee she trusted you more after the fact because you were man enough to come to her. And this is something that we want our business owners and we want everyone to understand because we preach this a lot. You know, we all have to humble ourselves and go ask for help. See, one of the lessons as a business owner, entrepreneur that I'm pretty sure that you learned after that is making sure that we get an accountant and a CPA on board to make sure we got these books and records up to date. So these are things that, you know, we have learned. I mean, we've all been there Ain't nobody that has been in business and been an entrepreneur. We've all gotten a letter from the IRS before. If you hadn't, just keep living and just keep working. That one, they don't say new level, new devil for no reason. So, understanding what comes with being an entrepreneur, it ain't always a bed of roses. There are some thorns on those roses that you have to deal with. That don't mean it's still not a rose, though. See, your business was still a rose, even though you plucked your thumb on that thorn.
Yeah.
You just had to persevere and keep moving forward, and you were learning. And one thing you started to do was learning how to prune that rose before you picked it up.
Oh, yeah.
You say, okay, well, let me make sure I dot my I's and cross my T's. And these are things that, we want our community to understand and make sure that we start to address, because we have great ideas. We have, great intentions. But what we don't have is the organizational structure that allows us to grow continuously. So we have a lot of ingenuity. We have a lot of creativeness. What we don't have is a lot of structure. More businesses fail due to structure. The same way we listen, I tell people every day, I said, look, the first thing we got to do before we design any financial plan is I got to look at your budget. And that's something that people don't want to sit down and have the conversation about, because nobody wants to write that budget down and make it plain and see what the errors are. Because we all like to say, well, I ain't got enough money to invest, Mr. Hamilton. I don't have enough money to save for retirement. I said, well, no, you got enough money, because God ain't gonna not let you have enough. But it's what you doing with what you have is the reason why you saying you ain't got enough. Is we have too much erroneous spending. We have money going into places that is not being beneficial or impactful. So we have to do a better job of structure. We have to do a better job of organization. We have to do a better job of asking for help. So for me, I ask for help when it comes to anything outside of my profession. Yes, I grew up in the gym playing basketball and football my entire life. But me wanting to get in shape, I'm still going to go talk to a trainer. I'm going to say, what do you think I need to do? Because you're going to have a professional insight. You're going to have a competitive advantage and knowledge that I don't have, because you do it every day. You're going to have access to information and resources that I don't have. Now, I have a basic service level education understanding, but that was education based on me being 15 to 22. I'm now 43. That's a different type of training I probably need to be doing now to get in the type of shape that I want to get into versus the shape that I need to be into when I was still putting on pads trying to hit somebody. So that's a different conversation, but we have to be humble enough to say, you know what? I need some help here. Can you assist me? Can you direct me to the right place where I can put myself in the best position to be successful? And that's what we have to do if we want to grow in anything in life. We want to grow individually. If we want to grow professionally, we have to be surrounded by people who have an understanding in areas that we don't, areas that we're not strong in. It doesn't make sense to be a jack of all trades and master of none. You have to be a master at something. Because I feel like in our community, all too often, we like to, do a bunch of stuff, but it's really being busy being nothing. Because I tell my son all the time, as a activity don't mean productivity. Just because you was actively doing something doesn't mean you were doing it with the level of intensity needed in order to get better. So let's make sure that we're being intentional about the activities that we're participating in so we can get better. What good does it do me if I'm coming in my office every day, but I'm not studying what's going on in the market? If I'm not looking at what are the new tax laws and updates so I can work with clients effectively, if I'm not making sure I stay abreast of all the new products and things that are coming about in the financial marketplaces. Well, I'm just in the office just watching TV. Well, I was in the office, but I wasn't being productive when I was in the office. Do you have experience working with people? Do you have experience executing the things that you talk about? And these are things that we tell our listeners, make sure you go check track records. Do your background check. Well, Mr. McCoy then told you what his background is. He's worked with professional athletes, college athletes, high school athletes going to college. So if you need help and assistance and you want to get your child right, I can tell you first and foremost, you need to go see Coach McCoy at Maximum Performance. There's no doubt about it. You need to make sure you put yourself and your kids in a position with someone who can help, not just someone who says, I can do it. See, like we like to, of course, in our community, we like to go, well, my cousin do that. Or my friend do that. Or, I used to train back in the day. No. What you did is not necessarily training. You were just, getting a light workout in. What I do is, as a specialist, is I look at a kid and I can design a program that fits your body and your goals and objectives so you can be the best version of yourself. Every body type has a different goal and objective based on what sports you play and what you need to be doing. Those are things that you understand that I would not understand as a novice. And that's where, from a community standpoint, we have to get better at is seeking the professional help. Right now, people going through a lot in the pandemic. We talk about it all the time. You got to write that plan down and make it plain.
That's right.
So we talked about the furloughs in the beginning of the year. We talked about the market being chaotic and volatile at the beginning of the year. We talk about the things this administration was going to do at the beginning of the year. And everything that we talked about has happened throughout the year. Mm-hmm. Now, we ain't rocket scientists. We don't claim to be, prophets and all that kind of good stuff. But we do know how to follow the tea leaves. We do know that there was a Project 2025 that was talked about in 2024. And there were things that were put inside it that we knew were going to affect us. We've just watched it play out. So when people seem surprised about what's going on right now, I'm like, wow, we're surprised when they gave it to the answer to the test. We just ain't playing and using those answers to our benefit. I've been telling people all year long, we got to put that investment plan together. We got to take advantage of how they're going to utilize the market. Well, Donald Trump, he just want to go and he just want to make money for his friends. Well, what companies do his friends own, and are you investing in those companies? Are you taking advantage of the growth that's going on around us? See, while we always complain about what's going on or what's not going on, we're not taking advantage of what is going on. I've been saying it from the beginning. The most money is made in times of confusion. And if you want to offset the changes in inflation, if you want to offset what's going on right now where you've been furloughed, well, did you invest your 401k correctly? Did you take advantage of the market's growth that's happened this year? So when you got furloughed, you had a little extra money that you could pull from to hopefully make sure you got a little extra cushion. Did you do that? Or did you just sit back and you had analysis by paralysis because you were trying to do it yourself? Seek professional help in whatever area you are looking to get better in. So if you're an entrepreneur, like Coach McCoy, like myself, like, of course, Mr. Richardson, we all have to seek professional help in different areas. I seek professional help when it comes to, spirituality. I seek professional help when it comes to my taxes. I seek professional help when it comes to my training. I just happen to be the professional when it comes to the money. But I need help in every other area of my life. And we all are, fall into that category. We just have to be humble enough, and we have to ask God for a spirit of discernment, because we have a lack of trust that's permeated throughout our community. And that lack of trust has put us in a position where we have not allowed ourselves to be educated. Because when you don't trust somebody, you won't let anybody educate you. And if you don't get educated, then you can never gain the necessary information to go and apply it to your life so you can actually use it and be successful. That's where we have an issue. We don't have a lack of intellect. We have a lack of trust. Because how many times have we sat down and talked to a person one-on-one and said, man, that's a bright individual. Why did they make that decision? These guys are pretty smart. Why did they do that? Well, it's because they didn't have enough trust in whoever they were talking to make sure they gained a proper understanding of knowledge so they could make the right kind of decision to move forward. So we have to be the change that we want to see as leaders, as you being a leader of men, as myself, as, of course, Mr. Richardson being a leader of men, in the barbershop, in the pulpit. So we have to be, who we desire to see our community turn into. And that's where I always try to go back and I try to put the pressure on myself to be a better version of myself. I have to be better for my sons. I have to be better for my clients. I have to be better for my community. So now if I'm doing that, hopefully I can be a light to somebody else and maybe motivate them to go and be better. So at the end of the day, our goal first and foremost is to be a blessing to all we come into contact with, because I truly believe we're all blessed to be a blessing. And it's been a blessing for me to be here today, to sit with Coach McCoy, learning about your journey. I already know your passion because I get a chance to see it, from a day-to-day basis. I've seen you pour into kids, but we need to touch and we need to highlight those guys that are in the community that are motivating the kids to be a better version of themselves and help them push themselves out and to be a light to the other kids, because kids want to be successful. They just need somebody to encourage them and then to show them how they can continue to be more successful. And of course, we know in our community in the city of Birmingham, we got a lot of great athletes around here that are doing special things, but we need you to get behind your kids and motivate them and push them with their Coach McCoy. And it don't have to be athletics. We need you to get behind them and find a coding class for your kids. Find a STEM class for your kids. Find something to push your kids into to help them be a better version of themselves. Because at the end of the day, each one teach one, and we'll see you back next week.